Hello everyone, welcome to New York Stadium. We are still in the midst of empty football in terms of spectators, but we've got a lot of football coming up over the next few weeks, so it's going to be a very busy time. Norwich City have won here at Rotherham 2-1. It took them the last few seconds of injury time with a penalty to beat 10-man Rotherham, having been a goal behind and being behind for a big portion and certainly the majority of the game. So it's been I feel quite conflicted, probably is the way to describe it after all of this, because you talk about the performances and the processes, and then you also talk about the results, which of course can be very different things sometimes. There's a lot of what Norwich did today, had they not scored their last minute penalty, would have probably had a very different discussion around it in terms of some of their defending. That Rotherham's pressing, especially early on, was very aggressive, and it created opportunities and cut through very easily, too easily really. There was a big portion of the first half where I didn't notice Ollie skip at all, when he's supposed to be protecting the back line. Some of the defending in the actual penalty box was a little bit last ditch, and you're a bit worried about how effective that is in essence. But maybe more pertinently, Norwich started the game with Adam Ida on the left, but on the pitch, and Jordan Hugill as the sort of focal point. Yet they barely really crossed the ball, and the whole pattern of attacking play seemed quite disjointed. Yet they did also still create really good chances, which they then fluffed, and well, not spectacularly, but pretty badly on a lot of occasions. So much confliction in is that a word? In terms of what Norwich are doing and things not happening, and we're at a stage where Daniel Farke has been in charge for a long time, and for some supporters that's, the fact it's not working isn't good enough. But there's also so much that they're having to deal with at the moment in terms of not really getting the time to work with the group per se, and adjusting to new players coming in and having to deliver on that. It's been an unsettling start to the season, obviously, and also, which is sort of a hard thing to pin down, and I'm not going to stand here and say they've been unlucky, but there's an adversity to what Norwich are doing at the moment. Daniel keeps talking about being thrown into cold water, and I think this is really tough for them. They are there to be shot at, and people are shooting really big guns at them, and they're hitting them. Norwich aren't quick enough, and I suppose they've got so much baggage from the last 12 months that they're not sharp enough to dodge the bullets. So they're having to take them. So quite how that pans out over the coming weeks and months, it's going to happen quite quickly now. We'll figure it out, because there are a lot of games coming up, and the Prep Championship table will take shape very quickly. But I think you have to say that to have 7 points at this point, having been in the lead for about 12 minutes of football, is it's kind of a remarkable scenario, and you can't sit here and say whether today is a turning point. I've got no idea. It depends so much on what happens over the coming weeks. And I'm not sure whether they played well enough to really back this idea that they're not far off. Because at the moment they've won, but they feel like they're quite a long way off, which again is different to maybe 2 years ago. But I think I might start banning myself from talking about 2 years ago, because everything's different. Well, there's nothing the same. A few of the players are the same, but they're in themselves different because they've been through different things. So for this and what it is, I think there's clearly a lot of potential, because Norwich are creating chances and shooting. They're doing a lot at one end. It's just not happening. They still look more porous than I would like them to be at the back. And what I would say is that they've come away with 3 points here when I didn't really think they would. So it's what happens to that now, and how they build on it will be interesting. They've got Birmingham and then Wycombe at home before they've got Brentford and Bristol City away. At the end of that Bristol City game, we'll have a proper idea of what Norwich are being able to cope with against some very good Championship sides and some that are finding it a bit trickier. So we will see. But they've just about managed to win this game, and we obviously have to take that. Jordan Hugill dispatched the high-pressure penalty, and he did it very well. I think he was happy with that. It was his first start in the league, of course. Tim Pukki was on the bench, which was a big call. Told Cantwell wasn't involved, but that was because of a knock to his knee and bruising, so you'd like to think he'll be back and available and around it over the coming weeks, and sooner rather than later. I'm not sure I'm the biggest fan of Adam Eder starting out on the left. Not that Adam was unfortunate with the penalty. It was a little bit of a naive collision, which Tim Krul saved by the way, and that is something to factor into this, is that even when there was a sending off with about 10, 20, 15 minutes to go, I think, Rotherham created the better chances after that. Brilliant save from Tim Krul to deny Ladapo from the spot. So lots going on. It was a horrendous tackle from Angus MacDonald, by the way, so quite rightly sent off, and Holly Skip rode it out. But yeah, the one thing I've missed is the equaliser, which came through a really good move. I want to watch it back and probably exemplify. You can focus on the own goal, but actually focusing on the move is probably better. Was slipping over under my own steam there. It was an own goal from. It was an own goal and a decent finish, but the quality of the ball in from Max Aarons was something else, and the move itself, I think, shows a lot of what Norwich can do and the damage they can cause, and in some ways they're not too far off doing that, but I wouldn't want to put a figure on when it clicks. We did have Grant Hanley playing his first game in a very long time, must be since lockdown, because I think he was playing regularly then and then got injured his hamstring, so and he did really well. After the first few minutes he was probably at fault for the goal. The Rotherham scored after only 3 minutes. So I think let's see where Grant Hanley is. He did really well. Daniel Farker delighted with his reaction from that early setback. Let's see where he is after a few games. Likewise, Ben Gibson, I think, had a slightly trickier second game maybe than his first, but you'd expect that. He's only just come back to starting to play football. These guys are going to need 5, 6, 7 games, maybe weeks, before they've really hit their sort of match sharpness and strides. And that's the same with Emi Buendia, who's obviously still working his way back in. And all of that does suggest that there is time that they should be afforded for clicking. And I suppose I just feel grateful that Norwich somehow managed to pluck 3 points out of what today was. A word for Rotherham, and I have said this before because they do seem to put it in against Norwich, and I guess Paul Warne has a lot to do with that. They pressed brilliantly in the first half, especially early on, really aggressive. They left massive holes behind them, but they kind of rode that out. There are a few things they will have to sort out if they're going to survive this year, but I think every Norwich fan really hopes that Paul Warne does the business and Rotherham survive this year, because this season, because there's so much to this club, and they are fighting a fight that a lot of clubs aren't, in terms of just trying to survive in this climate of no match day revenue and no income, and trying to live within their means. They do it properly. So and it was kind of nice being here, not getting so much stick off the Yorkshire faithful, which I definitely got a couple of years ago. But of course, all the crowd was missed. I hope Rotherham can sort of stick at it and survive this year, because there's some really good elements to what they do. So yeah, and of course I think Paul Warne deserves all that backing from Norwich fans as well, because he's one of your own and one of our own. Anyway, Birmingham, quick sharp. Aita Karanka's latest visit and a rejigged Birmingham. They look okay. I have no idea what they've done today, by the way. They're at Carrow Road on Tuesday night. I will see you there. There'll be loads of the usual stuff over at the Athletic, so keep an eye out. In the meantime, take care, be safe. I'm sure there's loads I've missed out of today, but if so, ask me in the comments and I'll try and answer them wherever you're watching. And in the meantime, look after yourselves. And I'm going to finish with Chris Gorham waving. Thanks, Chris.